Hi, my name is Marcus Tyler.
And I want to give you an overview of a project that I did at General Assembly. My previous experience has been mostly in the last 10 years consumer insights. And in the position of consumer insights, basically what I do is I look at the business needs, and what I do is I bridge the gap between the business needs of a company with the consumer's needs or insights, whether it be functional or emotional needs, and try to bridge that gap to make sure that the brand is offering something of value and of substance that the consumer really likes and has a passion for. So, in that position, we can gather information from various types of ways, whether it be through just regular observation, whether it be gathering data via surveys, whether it be interviews, and then, of course, there's online ways to gather information, whether looking at analytics tools via in social listening, or just your typical what you call surveys. So, one of the things that I like to do is I like to keep abreast of some of the things that are going on in technology and new trends that are going on in the market. So, on my own initiative, one of the things I did was I took a class at a place called General Assembly in downtown LA. So, for my project, because I've always been interested in fashion, I decided to do something with regards to the plus size market. I knew from research that the market was growing with regards to women, but I wanted to see, how is the male side of the market being catered to with regards to plus size? Are men happy with the offerings that they got? So that's what this overview is about. So starting out, I found out that there was really a plus size opportunity. So I looked at some intelligence report, and it talks about this plus size opportunity in the men's fashion market. You go on as a background, you look at for women, it's very well documented at least that it's the market size in the US alone is about 17.5 billion. The equivalent for men is not really known. There aren't really good estimates, right? As far as women, the ratio from men to women with regards to retailers, you're talking 6 to 1. There's about 6,000 more retailers offering women plus size offerings than to the 1,000 of those offerings for men. Online retailers, with regards to conversion rate, plus size in general gets about 4 times the conversion, right? These are people who a lot of times don't necessarily want to go in. There's some frustration that they get sometimes of trying on stuff. But then there's also wanting to get that right size, right? Not having the hassle of having to return things. And we find out from a disposable income, and this is a global number, it's about sometimes about 50% more. As people get a little bit larger, you're going to find out that that number tends to grow. So all depending on, many factors, food, how busy, the quality of food, nutrition, how busy people are becoming, just being stressed for time. So people are looking for solutions that can bridge that gap for them. There are companies that try to address the needs of people like Fitbay, DXL, The Line, King Size, Big and Tall Experts. Park and Pine is Chubster, Life in Your Size. In fact, in Mintel's 2015 survey of plus size customers, 84% of men said that they shopped for big and tall products online. So there's obviously a big opportunity there. And the question is that being served? Well, based on the information I provided earlier, it's probably an underserved market. But the question becomes, how do they want to be served? What are they looking for? 58% of big and tall menswear shoppers agree that they would spend more on clothing if there was more choice available to them. So there's a lack of choices. And 30% consider themselves fashionable and stylish. So it's not like they're not looking for fashion, and it's not like they don't have money to spend. It's just the offerings aren't there. When you look at sizes, and this is something I did on my own, sort of broke down the sizes in 3 categories. There is a size you consider maybe the pear shape, right? Those who aren't necessarily broad shoulders, but have maybe a little bit more weight in the midsection. Those are what I call the athletic build, right? Those who are sort of the broad shouldered people who kind of more narrow out at the bottom. And then there is what I call the skyscrapers. Those are people who are just tall, maybe tall and lanky, or just tall in general. So there's these different body types, and these are a simplified category, but some combination thereof covers the gist of the market. And what I found out, though, through talking to people, is though they may consider themselves big, no matter what shape they are. They don't want to be Peter Griffith. They don't want to be perceived as, sloppy or unkept, right? Because there's a certain stereotype that they feel or imagery that goes along with being maybe overweight to begin with. They sort of feel judged. So there's this need of clothing to sort of satisfy an image that they want to portray to the world. And that image being someone who's got it together, someone who's not slothful, etc., and sloppy. So one of the things I did was I developed a persona, right? When in doing a project like this, you gather a lot of information, you speak to a lot of people, you go online and you look for things people are complaining about, you look at the market, and you do interviews, right? You can gather a lot of information, but then you sort of find out from an individual standpoint, so what are the things they're looking for? And the persona I came up with was a guy named Jay. He's 32 years old, he's engaged, makes about $85,000 a year in household income. And he said his style, my style is my calling card, right? My behaviors and feelings. Being a bigger guy shouldn't stop me from being stylish. I want to dress nicely without going on a treasure hunt for clothes. They don't want to be going through the bins, so to speak. They don't like the fact that they have to go to these places where it looks like a bunch of clothes are just piled in and the aisles are very narrow and the clothes that fit them are on that one rack that's in the corner. They want to feel like they want that experience. The thing that people are finding out from a retailer standpoint, especially given the online competition, is that the retailing game has to step up and has to create an experience for them, something experiential, something that's enjoyable, that can compensate for the convenience that they can get doing things online. So the goals and the needs is accessible and stylish clothing that fits them. So he needs a convenient way to find fashionable clothes that fit his physique, style preference, and budget because he is frustrated with the lack of options and difficulty in finding what he wants. It's truly a needle in a haystack problem. His pain points, again, are things are missized, right? Here I have XL, but there's XXL and XXL. And then there's time. The time of going around in a treasure hunt to go into places that aren't necessarily aesthetically desirable and doesn't necessarily have the customer service that people have at places that are more high end, So they don't want to waste their time. Their time is valuable. Time is one of the reasons that people are gaining weight. So they don't want to spend more time going out and shopping for things only to be frustrated by not finding what they want or having to compromise because of the lack of selection. So money is a big issue. More time, more money. They sometimes feel they pay a lot just for limited options. And they feel like, again, those choices are few and far between. So they have to take what they can get. So it's not truly an expression of who they are or how they see themselves in the way they're satisficing or settling for what they can get. And so that becomes a problem in managing their own identity. In doing this, I did, of course, a competitive review. I looked at other people who were doing offerings and looked at what they were offering and how they were executing on their models. And I did expert and user interviews. I spoke to, different people who worked at in different avenues, whether it be sales, for instance, people who did sales at, say, Nordstrom's, and said, what are some of the things you encounter? What do you observe with men who come in who are a little heavier or bigger? And then there's the thing of there's people who you don't get. So one of the things you can do is you can try to intercept people, but the challenge there is a lot of times people who are dissuaded or discouraged from shopping, you won't even find them. So going to a place that's, caters to what they want won't necessarily be helpful because they won't be there. And then if you go to a place like the Big and Tall, it just depends on whether they like what they offer, so you won't know there either. So sometimes you just have to intercept people on the street, right? People who, just walk up and actually interview people or talk to them or reach out via different avenues online. So one of the things I did was affinity mapping. Affinity mapping is just sort of looking at, things that are associated, with what they want and needs and trying to categorize that. I did a task analysis, user flow design, a taxonomy. And then, of course, I did ideating, right? Ideating and doing these ideas. And of course, you have to vet those ideas, right? So this is a continuous cycle of learning, or rapid prototyping. So you do the prototype, you sort of test, you do a rough prototype, and then you sort of refine it as you get closer and closer to what you think is a viable solution that meets the customer's needs. And in doing these methodologies, you always have to pivot, right? So you think about the sort of the category or the cycle of doing this development for the user experience. And there's the empathy, right? Understanding who they are, what they want, what pain points or aspirations they have that aren't being met, and sort of defining that, right? And once you define that, you can sort of ideate it, and then you need to verify it, validate it via prototyping, and of course, testing, continuous testing. So this is a cycle. And so I did the research, the interview, the affinity, the task analysis, user diagram, taxonomy, sketching, wireframing, and high fidelity, so forth. So in doing that for this project, I sort of showed all the things that I went through for each phase. And then the areas that I had to pivot on. So when coming to defining the problem, I had to do interviews and affinity maps, and I had to actually pivot because I found out my initial hypothesis versus what the reality was different once I spoke to people. So I need to change it there. Also for the prototyping. And of course, when you do the testing, you need to really change things up based on what you're hearing, the feedback that you're getting, so that you can optimize that solution because, it's a very competitive, rapid changing world, especially online. People's attention span and patience isn't quite there because if they can't get what they want, they'll just go to the person who does it. So the one who executes best is going to be the one who wins in the market. So they're looking for all those things. They're looking for, do you have what I want? Is it easy to execute and understand what you're offering? Is it a pleasant buying experience? Right? And so if someone offers that better than you, whether it be a second mover, it could be a second mover advantage because they just know how to do it better than you did it, even though you were first, you could lose out in the market. So here's what I found out. My hypotheses were that all clothing for these larger men were an issue, but what I found out was it was mostly upper body. So I had to pivot, right? Prioritize content strategy and menu structure, right? My rationale about price limits. I found out they're willing to pay more for a great fit and work and date clothes. They need to understand what items they love. The items that they love actually fit them, right? So you need to collect that information. They're willing to actually pay the price for something that works. And then they're pretty loyal because once they find something that works and makes them look good, they're not going to deviate, right? They're not necessarily out there browsing. And that may be because of limitations, but that's what I found. I thought they just want to clothes that fit, but clothes can be used to counter stereotypes, right? And so the content strategy and the loyalty is stronger because it's not just about satisficing. Clothes become sort of a defense. It's actually it actually means more to them in some ways because they're not doing it just to quote unquote look good. It's almost like they feel they're at a deficit, so they need to come up to the regular place and then they want to show style, but then that style needs to be, it can't be too over the top, right? Because it has to complement them, right? Depending on their personalities also. There's some unknowns, right? Many feel unable to express their identity. They understand what styles they truly would buy if it was in their size. And then suits are a big hassle. Sizing jacks up the price. Fit is not tailored. So start offering separates, right? The blazers and things like that so they can do the combinations. But they need an easy way to know what actually works as far as combinations concerned. So other thing I found out was, there's no camera measurements. They don't really want that. They want anonymity. It's a concern for them. Registry type gifting. They wouldn't mind people buying from them. They just don't want people to know what size it is. So if you offer a way for people to sort of almost like when you do sort of this gifting and you do a registry, so almost a registry type thing where they can select things that they like. And when they like something, when a person who is registered goes to that site under their name, they can see things that person like, and they can just select to buy that for them without knowing the details of it. They simply just know the price, right? Getting tailored shirts is appealing, but the risk of being stuck with a bad shirt is a roadblock, right? Having clearance items in sales, clearance rack is a key area because off size, large size often go to clearance. So they have to go to this clearance rack, but there's sometimes a stigma associated with that clearance rack. It's almost like, everybody's rushing, like they're being herded, right? Sort of cattle to the herd. Everyone's trying to feed at that trough of the limited off sizes, and there's not going to be that many of them, right? So they feel like it could be a waste of time and money, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that frustration. Uh, Pivot learnings for myself when I did this, simple things. You find out you make mistakes like back button missing, reconfigure your menu structure for a clear path, progress of sign up process. So the thing that I did was after coming up with this, you need to develop a prototype. So I had my hypothesis, I got my learnings, and I said, okay, now I need to develop a prototype for a mobile app that allows a person to do all the things that I found out from the research. So the name that I came up with was Fashionably Fitted. Of course, that name's it's not a name that I can own, but that's just the name I came up with for the time. So this guy, Jay, is taking his fiance on an overnight in Chicago. So he wants to get a dark blue long sleeve Armani dress button up, and his budget is less than $100. I mean, that's a dream scenario, right? I know that's not viable. Armani for less than $100. Doubt it. But go with me on it. So then I create sort of a prototype, and I'm going to walk you through the prototype now. So here's the prototype. Let's see if I can take you to the beginning. Let's see here. Prototype. Okay. So it's a prototype, fashionably fitted, clothes based on your size and preferences, sort of the menu screen, right? Comes up and tells you there's 3 easy steps: size, sign up, shop. So again, this is a test, and then up top is showing you the different brands that are doing the partner. So what you would do is you'd find out for these brands, if they had a line that was specifically made for people of bigger sizes, you would have those sizes for those specific people. And they know that everything that they're looking at in those brands, they're not going to be shown anything that does not fit their size. But the first thing, of course, they have to do is size themselves, sign up, and then they can shop. So size, we'd start with a shirt. Go neck size. Let's see here. 2.5. Arm size. 3. Torso size. Let's just say 22. Right? You get it? Go through the pants. Let's do waist size. 39. Length 34. And then say if we had shoes, we do shoe size. Just say 13. Width. It's a big deal for people. So then you have that. They can congrats. They can put in their profile, save their profile. Once they save their profile, congratulations, King James. Fashionably Fitted will only show you items that fit your size, profile, and style based on which items pique your interest, right? And then they could browse. So once they could browse, they could go back here, and then they can sort of see some things that would appeal to them, or there be issues there. But let's say they're going to look for the upper body, because remember, our goal and our mission was to find that Armani shirt. I think it was blue for $100. So upper body, they're going to go here. They're going to look for shirts. They're going to look for a dress shirt. These are different brands. We want a filter. We want blue. We want $100. We want Armani, right? So the Armani shows up. These are all the things we chose. Blue, $100 Armani. We want to apply that filter. And now we have only blue Armani shirts at various prices, right? So once we have that, we can say, okay, we have this. We can choose a specific shirt. Say you like a shirt, zoom in, zoom out. And then you could say, well, I like that. I want to add that to my cart. So they add it to their cart. And if they want to look at sort of different options, there's come in any other colors, blah, blah, know about the care, etc. But then you say, okay, I think I like it. I want to buy it. So it goes to their cart, right? And they can say, let's continue. Put in all their credit information. They put it in once. It's saved. Or if they have gift points that would show up, they could pay. And they say Nordstrom will finalize your information. So that's it for that. I mean, obviously, I did a lot more things than that for this specific mobile app, but that I didn't show you. but that's kind of what it is. That's mostly what it's about. So that is pretty much an idea that I had, sort of from concept to sort of prototyping to testing. And of course, it was a class. The class wasn't that long, so I thought I learned a lot of really good stuff, and just to sort of help you understand sort of what I did and how I went through all these different phases. And I think another important thing is to understand is that for all these things, like I created all these. I created all this stuff using various tools um, for UX UI. So I want to understand how UX UI people went about it. I want to understand the customer. I want to understand everything from the beginning of the concept of an idea all the way to sort of developing a design for a mobile app. And understanding that not just from a mobile app standpoint, but I think it's really important to understand the business side of things and how the business needs to operate because, it is the fashion business. But in doing that, you need to understand how to bridge the gap between business goals and consumer goals. All right. The other thing, let's see if I can find something else here that I did. If I go back to, I can sort of show you sort of other things that were involved in making this app because it was quite involved, right? It was not a simple process. So part of it was doing these prototyping, what you call paper prototyping. And so that was, going through and making these cutouts and sort of thinking about the layout structure and how it was going to work. And so it went from me just sketching it out on a piece of paper to sort of making this paper prototype and how it's going to work to doing sort of a rough test on some other tools that allow you to do it to me finally going into, this tool that you just saw that allowed me to sort of connect it in InVision. So this is just showing you, different versions of how that tool was developed, right? Sort of drawing, shared, etc. Right? So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Again, my name is Marcus Tyler, and that's sort of a quick overview.